Hello, James.
Hello, Maria. How is your week going?
I'm tired this week. I'm looking forward to a long weekend. I don't know about you. I've just been busy.
Yeah, it definitely feels like this. I was talking to a whole bunch of different bureau agents this week. Like, definitely feels there's some. Last week we had Jamil Qureshi on talking about the big momentum.
Momentum.
It definitely feels like there's started to be some momentum with a lot of the live events, which is great, which is
Yeah, it
fantastic.
did. It went quiet for a little while
Yeah.
over Easter. It definitely went quite quiet. And now it's like busy again. And yeah, I'm tired. Terrible. Getting old. Anyway. So what are we doing today?
Well, this week we're going to be talking about goals, big, bold goals, goal setting, a topic I'm actually really passionate about. And our guest today is Caspar Craven, who is a leading authority in achieving big, bold goals through high performance teamwork. A serial entrepreneur, he has built and sold a tech business for a seven-figure sum, worked as a CFO and at KPMG. He has twice sailed around the world, the first time as a team leader on a trophy-winning racing yacht in the BT Global Challenge, and the second time as captain and team leader of his family team with his wife and three young children, all aged under 10 years of age. Amazing. So he's going to share with us how we can be more audacious and bold setting and achieving big, bold goals for 2021 and beyond. And it's my great pleasure for us to have him with us today.
Hello, Caspar. Let me see if I can make you bigger. Let me have a go. See, that always happens to me. There you go.
Oh,
You have the
hello,
center stage.
hello. Lovely to be with you both this afternoon. Talking
Lovely. And
big
it's
bold
lovely
goals.
that you're talking to us from the beach. How lovely. So listen,
Yes.
why and how big bold goals?
Yeah. So why big bold goals, right? It's funny. A lot of the conversations that I have with leaders, CEOs, and so on. And I'm hearing the sort of the questions that we're not adapting well to all the challenges that we've got going in the marketplace. We're being disrupted the whole time. And I hear things like we're not agile enough, we're not resilient enough, we need to do digital transformation, we need more innovation, all these different things, right? And all of those things are what I would describe as existential threats for businesses. Unless you adapt to that, you're going to have some problems. And here's the thing, that all your competitors are thinking big, and they are thinking about how can they disrupt your marketplace. So unless you are thinking big and bold, you're going to be left behind. So that's very much the why, I think, that we have to set those audacious goals. And also, they're more exciting to go after, aren't they? You can go after 5% a year, or you can say, what would it take to totally transform our organization and what we're doing? So that's basically the why I think we need to go and do that. And once we start to come up with those more exciting stories of the future, then that creates the space for that creativity, that innovation, and then we start to believe that bigger and bolder things are possible. But the crux of it, your question about how do we go about doing those? For me, that's all about teamwork, because it can be hard to get all of our team aligned and looking in the same direction, looking towards the future. And for me, that is really sort of understanding your core team of people. Where are they all looking? And so I have this simple question which I ask people. It's called past, present, future. And it's like, where do you spend most of your time looking? Is it to the past? Is it to the present, or to the future? And you ask people, and they've all got different answers. Actually, Maria, James, what are your past, present, future numbers? How much of your time do you spend on past, present, and future? Where do you end up looking?
Oh my goodness. It depends how upset I am about something that I might have done, because this is quite timely. I'm a bit upset about something I've done this week. So I'm staying in the past and unraveling it.
Oh.
And I've got to let go of it and be in the present so I can think about the future. So this is interesting time. I feel like I'm having therapy, actually. James, what are your numbers?
I'm terrible for being reflective and looking back, which is good in a way because I don't carry grudges because I can never remember them. I never look back. I'm always looking forward, and actually it causes a bit of a problem because sometimes you have to take that time to actually in the here and now. And I know when I feel a little bit disconnected, it's sometimes just because I'm in it now, like the present, and sometimes I just need to take a breath to, as you say, kind of look forward and what some of those goals are. But I'm probably not on the looking back person too. I don't do that too well.
We need therapy, Caspar.
Yeah.
We both need therapy.
I don't think we can do that today. I mean, but it's interesting because we're all different, aren't we? And I always ask people in sort of talks and so on, where are you all focused? And it's really interesting to understand different people in your team, because, you know, when you're thinking about a big bold goal in the future, you almost need to detach a little bit from reality, and you need to go to that future place and say, what does a more exciting place in the future look like? And you all need to go there together and say, okay, let's sort of think about, what does this look like? What does this sound like? What does this feel like? And you do that reality detachment, that bit of blue sky thinking, right? You're going to come back after that, and you're going to build the goal, build a plan grounded in reality after that. But if you're trying to answer how do you do it at the same time as what is it, you'll never get very far, because that how do you do it question will keep tripping you up over and over again. So it's really important to get your core team together, because it is a teamwork thing. And I say that because I've tried doing big, bold goals on my own in the past, and they never work, because you need a team of people to make them happen. So yeah, a little bit of detachment from reality. Go out there, imagine it, paint that picture of the future, working together in that future place, and then after that, come back and say, okay, how are we actually going to make this happen, and build it from there.
So talk about that then. We set those goals, we paint that vision of the future, but often there's a bit of a disconnect between that big bold goal and our daily activities. How do we bridge those?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So it's funny, it takes me back to 2009 when my wife and we came up with our plan to go off and do our sailing around the world. And back then we didn't have the money, didn't have a boat. My wife couldn't sail, got seasick, you know, all sorts of good reasons why you shouldn't sail around the world, really. And we set this 5-year goal. And I was very much in that sort of place back then of, let's paint this amazing story, and that will just miraculously happen on its own. And of course it doesn't, does it? And because we set that 5-year timescale, we said 1st of August 2014, we're going to get on the boat and head off. And we got 3 years away from it. So we're now in 2011. And like that thing that I was just like dreaming of, it wasn't any closer, because actually you've got to do the work in the present, and you've got to think backwards from that end point. What are the practical steps that I need to take in order to get there? And you've got to ask yourself the tough questions, right? What are the reasons that this will fail? What are the reasons that this will fall over? And you know, for us, it was all things. You know, we didn't have the money. You know, didn't know how to be a doctor and mend kids when they got broken and stuff like that. And how do you do homeschooling? Something we're all quite familiar with now. So it's taking all those reasons why not, and then building those individual plans and breaking it down into those bite-sized chunks, and then making sure you're being accountable and moving forward through that. So it's starting at that end point and then breaking it down into those chunks, holding yourself accountable, and but all the time, you know, making sure that you keep focused on what that end thing is. That's exciting, that's powerful, it's emotional, that thing that's pulling you into the future. So it's shuttling between the future view and then, what are you actually going to do today? Because the future only happens in the present when you actually do stuff today, doesn't it? So,
as you're saying that, reminds us of Warren Buffett's business partner, Charlie Munger. He had a quote which was invert, always invert, which is kind of what you talked about there, like going to that place and then saying, okay, what needs to happen just before that? What needs to happen just before that? What needs to happen just before that? So in the case of the sailing one you're talking about around the world, how did you visually represent that? Was it all spreadsheets, or did you have big like mood boards, or what? How do you kind of like take this from just being an intellectual idea to something that you can track?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So instantly, for the first little part of that 5-year plan, I'm a former accountant, right? So I had all the spreadsheets, but they're not very exciting. So, well, actually, they're exciting for me, but they're not really exciting for anybody else. It's funny. Yeah. I remember actually because we had to turn my business around to make things happen as well. And I came up with this goal and I said, we're going to create a 100 million quid business. And I was super excited about that. And I told my team all about that. What's what we're going to go and do? And I laminated it off on cards and I put them on everyone's desks. And I said, that's what we're going to go and do. And I remember about 3 months after that, I said to everyone, it's like, can anyone tell me what our vision is? And everyone like shifted uncomfortably and said, I think it's something to do with a number. And I realized that 100 million quid was huge to me, but nothing to them. So it's, you've got to find that emotional thing. But for the sailing plans, we actually had in our kitchen this huge, great big map of the world, which we literally printed it off, and not printed off, but ordered it. And then we sketched out our route around the world. And then we had next to it a family vision statement. So our story of what we were going to go and do and how we were going to go and do it. And it was literally, kind of like a company vision statement, but we took that idea and applied that to our family thing. And it was those two things. Then everybody would come into the kitchen and say, "What's this?" And they say, "You're crazy." And it's like, "Yeah, we know." And so you deal with all of that. But what's interesting, actually, that map, we actually went through the Panama Canal on Valentine's Day 2014. And that was 3 days different to when we actually went through it, when we had it actually marked on the map. So it's really interesting, that power of sort of actually, imagining the future and then how it actually comes to pass when you make it happen. So.
Brilliant. So, I mean, you've sort of touched on this about getting buy-in from the team, but how did you get buy-in from your team when you gave them this target of 100 million? Did you have to have them involved in the actual vision and them see it too, or do you have to lead them to want to? So I'm trying to find out, do I need to involve my team when I say I want to make 100 million in the next 10 years, or do I say this is what we're going to do and just lead them?
So look, so here's my experience. Like the 100 million quid, this is what we're going to do. It didn't really engage with anyone, and it led me to that crashing realization that people only do things for their reasons, not for your reasons. And it's why it's so important to have, a big bold goal which means something, that's anchored in an emotion. And that's why this process, you've really got to take the time to do it and to discuss as a team, why is this important? Why do you want to go and do this? So after that failure with my team and that crashing realization that we were not on the same page, we then sat down and we asked ourselves questions like, what is the business that would make us feel proud if we went there and achieved it? And we focused on the emotion. What is it we're going to go and do together? And we ended, so our business was in the field of data analytics. And we came up with the story that our mission was we wanted to be the world's best data treasure hunters. So we used to work with banks and law firms and so on. We used to go inside their data and look for the stories, what the data was telling us. But it was the team that came up with that thing about being the world's best data treasure hunters. And they came up with a dream client list. These are the top 20 clients in the world that we want to go and work with. And it was powerful because it came from the team. Whereas my reverse thing of sort of, this is what we're going to go and do, and it's a number. It was just like, everyone's like, yeah, and so what? So I think it's super important to spend time with your core team and say, why is this important? Why are we on this journey together?
I like that. And I like the idea of identifying the 20 clients that you wanted to work with. Did you achieve the 20 clients and did you achieve the 100 million?
So we didn't achieve the 100 million and we didn't achieve the 20 clients, but we went an awfully long way in that direction. So it's, heading that way a lot further than if we hadn't done that. So
yeah. So like with that, like they say, if you shoot for the moon, you'll hit the stars. If you shoot for the stars, you hit the lamppost or something. I don't remember what the saying is, but you have to, you need to have that big bold goal in order to get further than you would otherwise. I like that. Exactly,
because that thing, it stretches what you believe is possible. So back in the day when we started off, we were selling sort of software for 300 quid a month, and then we sort of grew that, saying, okay, well, how do we sell £1 million contracts? And it was only because we stretched our belief in what was possible.
I'm making notes. Are you making notes, James?
I am. I'm thinking, even as you're saying this, I mean, it's talking about interesting. Like some people are. They're very connected to that kind of visual thing or the emotion or some of the spreadsheets. I got cycling with a friend, and it amazes me just how different we think. He's a chairman of a company, which is probably why he's very successful what he does. But he, like every single thing he's logging in he has a spreadsheet for the number of miles that week, and he's mapped it out for his annual. And for me, I just go out have a bit of a natter, of a cycle. And if we end up doing 40 miles, that's great. That's fantastic. So it's interesting, like how, like for me, it's the emotion of being out, connecting with someone. For him, it's kind of hitting those numbers. So I'm wondering, like, it's almost like, how many goals should we be setting? Is there a Goldilocks, I guess, a Goldilocks? Like, is it like too few or too many?
Goldilocks.
Yeah,
Goldilocks,
maybe
yeah,
I've
very
just
nice.
been
I like that. You have to use that, Caspar.
But how many goals should we be setting in order to really have a good chance of achieving them?
Yeah, no, good question. I'm trying to think, just right, not too hot, not too cold, and all that sort of stuff. So I think the just right amount, I say it's 2, and I think that you need to have one business goal and one personal goal, and that's how I approach it anyway. And it's like it's all about having that Polestar story, that thing out there that everybody understands, that it's so clear and it's running through everyone like the stick of rock. That's the thing that we are aiming at together as a team. I've heard in the military they call it the commander's intent, and once everybody knows what the commander's intent is, then you don't have to go and manage people, because everybody is like really clear. That's the direction that we're heading in. So in a work context, one Polestar story was Omar Bradley, former chief of staff for the for in America, was basically saying, it's like, once you know what your Polestar is, you're not going to get distracted by the lights of all the passing ships. And if we have too many different goals and things that are going on, it's so easy. And you and I have chatted about this before, Maria. It's like, there's a shiny object here, there's a shiny object here, right? And you get pulled in all sorts of directions. But it's in any work sense, one big bold goal. And I say I think in personal life, having that as well. And the reason I was thinking having those 2 together is there will be times when you get stuck with one of them, and it's just like nothing is moving forward, nothing makes sense. And actually to go and shift to something, and actually that's kind of what I did in my journey. So it's, get stuck in the business sense. Okay, well, how do I move the family goal forward? And actually then I get a brainwave and I get some ideas and I get some energy, and then I can take that back to the workplace. So it's this interflow between the 2 different things of working on sort of those 2 big bold goals. But I wouldn't recommend any more than that. That'd be my Goldilocks number.
Maria, what about you? I don't know how I don't know what everyone else feels that's watching this just now and listening. Maria, for you, what is your goal? Do you have a number of goals that you're focused on at any one point?
What's interesting is actually Caspar and I did talk about this, because I actually had I was running 2 businesses up until very recently. And that for me was very difficult. And it's one of the things I say to speakers: you have to focus on one thing. And one of our favorite books is The One Thing. In fact, for all of us, we've all read it. Yeah. And there was I working running 2 businesses, one aimed at speakers, one aimed at corporates and businesses, trying to do 2. And I'm thinking, I'm teaching this and I'm doing the opposite. So my focus is totally on speakers, and our goal is really to help. We'd like to help 1,000 speakers to really grow their speaking businesses and have huge success. So that's not a huge number of people. We want to work much more, closely and deeply with speakers through, one-to-one and small groups, and hopefully a nice retreat somewhere, maybe in 2022 when we're allowed to travel again. So James, you'll be coming along, won't you? So that's our goal, is to really help change speakers' lives by giving them the tools that we know and understand in the bureau world. I haven't got my personal goal, and I wrote that down. I thought I need to have a personal goal. So thank you for that, Caspar. What about you, James? Seeing as you've made me, I do feel like I'm having therapy. I feel like I'm on the couch.
Well, no, I mean, just what Caspar, it was interesting, I remember starting off doing goal setting, and having I remember I still have the list, 101 goals that I kind of had. Wow. And then I remember writing down this list and thinking, and I was really excited by this list, and then just feeling overwhelmed by the list as well. And then thinking, okay, this is really a matter of sequencing. And in the One Thing, they talk about this in the dominoes. And so I've been thinking much more, like, for me now, I just have one goal for my business and one goal for my personal life. And that's just, and then, I'm always thinking in terms of sequential, like, okay, that needs to be this one, because that's going to help me knock over that one in a year's time. That's going to help me knock that one. But I wasn't good at that at the start, and I'm only just getting better at it now.
It can be hard, can't it? With all those different competing priorities. I keep coming back to that phrase, isn't it? I think this was mentioned in The One Thing, right? If you chase 2 rabbits, you'll catch neither one, right? So it's just be really clear on what you want to go after. So
That's true. And so I think you've more or less covered this, that, you know, by having one main goal, it's a lot easier. Is that how you keep, you know, how do you keep it front and center? Because obviously, you know, your goal might be a 3-year target, and you've broken it down and you've come back. But how do you always keep your eye on the prize? And do you change it based on what's happening if you're not on schedule, or does that goal remain there? I don't really know what I'm asking there. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I think I understood that. I think you're asking. It's like, yeah, how do you stay focused on it, right? I mean, I think
how do you stay
not change
focused?
it?
Yeah, and not get sort of disillusioned if you're not quite where you should be because COVID has hit, for example.
Yeah. Oh, so 2 questions there. So I think the first thing is, you know, staying focused on it comes down to the process of how you go about creating it in the first place. So it takes time, I think, to really craft that out, to grapple with it, to debate it, to argue over it. You know, what is this thing we are going to go and do? I have this formula that the process plus the outcome is greater than the outcome. And it's all about the process of how you go about doing that. So it's, you know, whoever is, you know, is on the bus, on the boat, who's going to go and make that thing happen with you together. I mean, for Nicola and I, when we created our big bold goal, it took us about 6 months, most weekends sitting down. And because we kind of like held it up and we looked at it from every single angle and we debated it and sort of really explored, and clearly you're not going to spend that long in a company sense, but it's really investing proper time. And by doing that process, you cement why it's important to you. And you think about what's the emotion attached to that. Why do I care about this? I always used to ask my team, it's like, I used to say to them, it's like, why are you here? Why do you care? What is it about what we're doing in this business that actually really resonates with you? You get some amazing answers because people are amazing, aren't they? When you ask them, you know, sort of their views and ideas, and that's what this is all about. And so I think it's part of it is investing that process together as a team. And then you clearly sort of, you know, you write it out and sort of have it in simple language. I always think about telling it as a story as well, by the way. And it's like, you know, we've all seen companies, and I've worked in several of them, where you have these sort of big, long, convoluted vision statements, which have clearly been created by a committee. And I remember working on one of the big 4 accountancy firms, which I won't name. And their vision statement was so complicated, I couldn't even remember what the first part of it was by the time I got to the second part of it. And so therefore, I always think that you've got to have it sort of captured in a really simple story that means something. So it's storytelling, isn't it? What do you think? It's telling a story to you and the rest of your team. It's funny, it makes me think of that Steve Jobs story when he brought on board Scully from Pepsi, where he said, do you want to sell sugared water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come and change the world with me? And it's about creating something exciting, isn't it, that people can really sort of engage with and buy into. So I think that's the first part, is that creation of it and spending that time creating it together. And then you know, for me personally, I always do this exercise I call theatre of the mind. I take a few minutes every day, and I just imagine in my mind it's visualization, right? It's that story of seeing that thing coming to life and happening. And so it's living inside that vision, because the more you do that, the more real it becomes, doesn't it? So that's kind of what I do.
Fantastic. I've made so many notes, Caspar. It's brilliant. I'm going to have to watch this again. It's fabulous. Thank you. James?
I'm going to take a bit of a contrarian position now. We've been talking about goals.
It was going so well.
If you're going so well,
I'll leave now.
Yeah,
me too.
I've just been reading this book. It's called Journey Without Goal. And it's actually based on Buddhist philosophy, Eastern philosophy. And it really just talks about how we can become overly attached to our goals. And that actually kind of really works against us, and we become less happy. There's less happiness in the world sometimes when that happens. So I've heard other people like Scott Adams, who wrote the Dilbert comics. He said, instead of being goal orientated, we should be process orientated. So instead of, like, say, I'm going to lose, I don't know, a stone, every day, being process oriented, every day I'm going to do something that moves. I'm going to be moving every day. So just like there's a little of that kind of goal versus process. I wonder what kind of your views on that are.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Look, you've got to have both. You've got to have the goals and the process. And yeah, no, one without the other, it's not going to happen. So it's funny. I mean, there's a huge philosophy that's been around for a while. It's marginal gains theory, isn't it? Which is, just doing that sort of focusing on the process. 1% better every day. And I totally subscribe to that. But you've got to start with what's that goal that you're pointing towards? What's that direction you're going in? Because if you don't have that, then it's kind of like, what's the metaphor? It's you're climbing up a ladder, but it might be against the wrong house. So it's going in that right direction. But the process is fundamentally important. And I think one of the myths that I used to fall into was back in my accounting days. I was always told you're either a detail person or you're a big picture person. And I think that lens is really unhelpful, because I think you've got to be both. And for me, what I've had to learn the ability to do is to be able to look at the big picture, the 30,000 foot view, and then to shuttle in to what am I going to do today, the 3 feet view, and then to be able to come back out again. So it's being able to lift your eyes up and see where you're going, and then put your head back down and get into what you're doing. And it's neither one nor the other, it's both. And I think it's a skill set to be able to shuttle between those two different things. I've had to work quite hard doing that, because I'm naturally sort of going, what's that big thing in the future? But clearly the future only happens by stuff you do in today. So it's that flexibility between the two things. So it's both, James.
I guess it's almost like there was almost kind of non-binary in that sense. It's not that or that. There was someone I remember seeing a while ago. He had a T-shirt, and he would go to any if there was any demonstration happening, whether it was political or whatever, and his T-shirt just said, "I think you're going to find it's a little bit more complicated than that." And he would stand next to people with signs like just saying something really like, "It has to be this way," and he'd say, "I think you find it's a little bit more complicated than that," because it's in the grey. It's often in those middle areas, isn't it?
It's so true. My favorite word recently is nuance, and it's like everything is so nuanced, and we all want simple answers, but it's more complicated than that, and you have to get into the detail. It's not this thing or that thing. It's both, but it's just getting it in the right proportion.
But you use the word complicated, which I think is interesting as a word, because I'm filming this in Scotland. Scotch whiskey is complex, not complicated. So there's a lot of complexity. It's nuance in that way, but it's actually not complicated. There's still the same barley, and I don't actually know how you make whiskey, but there's the same things as well. So there's the same some of those core ingredients, like when we're goal setting, but there's nuances you were saying.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't know how to break down the difference between complex and complicated, but it's nuance, isn't it? I mean, that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Listen, we've run out of time. In fact, we've gone over. It's fantastic. I've really enjoyed this. So, Caspar, how can people get in touch with you? And also, I think you might have something to share as well.
I do. So, yes, Caspar Craven, quite easy to find. CasparCraven.com, LinkedIn, all those sorts of things. So, actually, I'm just writing my next book, Big Bold Goals, and there are like 20 principles. How do you go and achieve big bold goals with the leadership and the teamwork needed to do that? So if anyone would like the early draft of that, I'm giving that away. Don't tell too many people, but just to your listeners.
I want it.
So
I want it.
So you can. So there's a link. I think you're going to put a URL down, aren't you, for it, Maria?
We'll put it on the This Week in Events website. Absolutely, we'll do that. That's fantastic. That's really generous of you, Caspar. Thank you.
Caspar, thank you. And what we're going to do is, as Caspar just mentioning that link to the book, we're going to have, if people go to thisweekinevents.com, just enter your details there. It's going to take you through to a page where you're going to find that link to that, and also you're going to have links to both Caspar's website and also the Big Bold Goals website as well. So head over there just now. So Caspar, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Pleasure. Lovely chatting to you both.
Thank you. We'll let you get back to the beach. Okay,
thank you.
Oh, look, hang on a minute. What's going on? Why are you bigger than me?
So
that was fabulous.
I'm thinking this weekend I'm going to sit down and do some goal setting and kind of review my goals after that. It's kind of inspired me to kind of just take a look at that. So goals, before we kind of talk about our goals and what we're doing in speaking business, take a moment just to thank our wonderful sponsors, London Speaker Bureau. London Speaker Bureau is a global resource for corporations and governments for keynote speakers, executive learning masterclasses, and boardroom advisors. Representing some of the most influential business leaders and politicians in the world, if you need help in choosing a speaker, like Caspar, for your next event, go to londonspeakerbureau.com.
I've just realised I match the background. My shirt matches the background.
Oh, yeah.
It's my arms continues.
It's camouflage.
Really strange.
It's modern camouflage.
Yeah, very strange. Yeah,
so Maria, let's talk about goals. And because you're working, we were just talking earlier there, and you're saying your goal is to help other speakers now and kind of building their careers as well. But talk to us a little bit more about the context of goals for speakers, goals that maybe speakers should be thinking about for their businesses.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I think a lot of speakers don't actually have a sort of set, detailed plans and goals. They might have a goal to say, I want to earn so much per year, but then they don't break it down and create a detailed plan. It's quite fascinating. In doing training, I'll say to speakers, have you got a business plan for your speaking? And they'll say no, but you need that business plan, that breakdown that takes you to whatever it is you want to achieve. If you want to be achieving $500,000 a year, you do need to have a plan of how you're going to get that. And I suppose it's the strategic thinking that's really important, behind how you're going to achieve it. So for me, there's a couple of things. One is actually having that plan, but then also, as Caspar said, that you break it down and so that you've got it in the present. But it's having the right indicators to track, because a lot of speakers will track maybe the number of bookings or the revenue, and you've got not necessarily the control of when that booking is going to come in, when that thing's going to confirm. And so you have to have something that you can track on a daily basis, so you're going in the right direction. So I think indicators are really important in what you're tracking. And I'm sure that Caspar will going, yes, I agree, because he's a former accountant, so he'll be saying, yeah. So and that can be things that you are in control. It needs to be things you're in control of. And it could be as simple as the number of potential clients you've spoken to today, the number of calls you've made, that kind of thing, where you're actually going towards that target, and then reviewing it and saying, am I on track? What do I need to tweak? What's going on, so that I don't have to change that goal? So that's my thinking for speakers, really. I don't know, what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo that. We do a process also every month. We have a spreadsheet that my assistant actually fills in, and we have this whole battery of metrics that they have to measure. But I have the idiot's version next to me on a big whiteboard, because I'm kind of old school, so I have to write it down as well. He has the fancy version. But I'm just looking at it just now. I'll be total transparency here. These are the numbers. To breaking that goal, we have a goal in terms of number of speeches, let's say the keynote, the speaking part of what we do. And I'm looking at it just now, and on one side you have the month, you have the opportunities. So this is like you mentioning those kind of lead and lag type of indicators. So we have goals here around number of pitches that we're doing every single month. Then we have another goal around, and we track the monthly numbers of the how many visits to our speaking page on my website, the visits to those speaking pages, because that's a really, really key metric. I can track totally how many gigs are coming in just from tracking visits to those pages. And then we call them suspects, and then prospects, number of inquiries received direct, number of inquiries received from bureaus, number of holds, number of gigs won that month, number of gigs lost, because you have to lose things in order to win things. And then finally the results. So that's like number of paid speeches and amount invoiced. So I just kind of write that up at the end of every month as well. My assistant has all the other things within that. And then we'll basically kind of look and say, well, why is that happening? And then usually we can find it somewhere in those numbers. Yeah. But then that bit isn't inspiring to me, looking at those numbers. For me personally, I know for other people it might be seeing those numbers. I don't get inspired by numbers. But as Caspar was talking about the map, when I put a physical map up and I'm putting pins in and I'm seeing places,
virtual presentations, right?
But even if this client is in New York, or this client is, so even if it's a virtual, you're doing that. For me, that is a stronger virtual way of showing me my progress rather than numbers and dollars and cents. But that's, I guess it's just different for everyone.
Yeah, I would say that a month is too long to wait for you to see if you're on track, though, because by the end of the month, you've lost that month. So I think it needs to be much shorter and much tighter. Weekly, as a would be the longest. I would leave it to look at where you're at. I mean, I want to know I want to know daily, am I progressing? But then again, I'm an ex-management consultant, so I'm obsessed with these things.
So you like all this stuff. I find it overwhelms me after a while. I just kind of
you track a lot of stuff, you see. So I track a bit less, and my team are all involved in tracking it too, and they can influence our indicators, which is lovely, and they can have an effect. So I love that.
But Caspar, with his background in finance, the other thing that we track, that's just the speaking part, but we also look at the ratios.
So important.
So a danger I've seen, and maybe some people have fallen into this, is you build a speaking business, like putting your ladder against the wrong wall. You build an entire business that's based on giving keynotes. And when that business changes, you don't have any continuity, membership, subscription, online courses, consulting coach, other things that just kind of fill out that. So the thing I'm almost more interested in is the time allocation or the asset allocation. Is 40% of my business coming in from keynotes? That's about as much as I would want to be bringing in from that, because it's quite a volatile business, just the keynote speaking side.
You are so wise. Absolutely. You need a portfolio
approach. That's the word. That's the word I'm looking for.
That's that word. Fantastic. Well, listen, I think time has come to an end, and because I want to go and celebrate, it's our 5-year anniversary. I want to go and get the champagne. And so I want to thank everybody for having attended. And thank you, James.
Well, thank you, Maria. And thank you to our wonderful guest today.
Yeah. And let me know what's in whiskey when you find out. Yeah. When you go and investigate.
Yeah. We'll get some for you next time.
Okay. Right.
Thanks,
Wonderful.
everyone. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Bye.